Over the last few weeks, two very contradictory things in relation to Indian economy took place. On one hand, the current US President, Donald J. Trump, called Indian economy as a dead economy.
And news just coming in, US President Donald Trump has launched a fresh outburst targeting India's trade ties with Russia.
Declared that India's economy was quote-unquote dead.
Everybody knows that the Indian economy is a dead economy.
So India is growing faster than China, faster than even the United States.
आज भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है.
And on the other hand, Standard & Poor S&P credit rating agency upgraded India's credit rating from BBB minus to BBB, which is a very significant event for India because this has happened after a period of 2 decades and which shows Indian economy in a very positive light. So on one hand, while President of US is calling Indian economy as a dead economy, on the other hand, Standard & Poor S&P credit rating agency, which is one of the best credit rating agency of the world, is upgrading India's credit rating and is highlighting Indian economy in a good shape. These two contradictory pictures shows Indian economy in a very contrasting light. But today we are here to talk about S&P upgrading India's credit ratings. So hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you are watching Perspective. Now starting from the very scratch. What do you mean by credit rating? What is Standard & Poor? What is this S&P credit rating agency? And what is this BBB, BBB minus, A, AAA or AA or A minus? What are these numbers? See, first you understand one thing. Credit rating simply means that you rate any individual, any entity, any organization or a country based on their credit worthiness. Now, for example, I have a friend. I give 100 rupees to that friend and that friend never returns the money back to me. I would rate that person 0 in terms of credit worthiness. That means that person should never be given any money because that person is having a bad track record of not giving the money back. Or the fundamentals of economics for that person is really, really bad, which means the person is having poor credit worthiness. So credit rating simply shows the credit worthiness of an individual or an organization, an entity, or even a country. Now, when we have to show credit worthiness with respect to a country, what do we keep in mind? We keep in mind that if the country is given a loan, or if investors put their money in the country, are their investments secure or not? Or are the loans given to the country, would they be repaid back by the country or not? That is what credit rating for a country suggests. And if the credit rating, as you would know, is A, that is very good. If it is B, it is a bit moderate. If it is C, it is very, very bad. So in similar way, there are credit rating agencies which rates different countries based on whatever XYZ criteria they use. They rate different countries on the basis of their credit worthiness. So they have different metrics, different formulas to assess the credit worthiness of a country, and on the basis of that, they rate particular countries. And how do they rate? Usually they rate in this manner, that a country who's rated AAA is the best country. A country who's rated AA is okay, it's a very good country to invest in or to give loan to. A country who's rated A, again, is a good country. Now, there can be positives and negative signs to it as well. For example, BBB. Now, BBB in itself is a positive sign, which means the money can be lent to that country and money is safe. BBB minus is even worse. So now earlier, since the last 2 decades, the Standard & Poor credit rating agency, S&P credit rating agency, had rated India BBB minus, which means to give loan to India, it's not very risky, but give at your own risk. And from this BBB minus, the credit rating has now been upgraded to BBB, which is a very positive move and shows Indian economy in a very great light. Because from minus, now we are at a positive. And after that, we might go to A as well. Now this BBB, it shows that now it is more better, or it is more lucrative, or it is more worthy for investors to give loan to India. And India is having more credit worthiness than before. And also in a way, if you see, these ratings highlight not just the credit worthiness, but also the strength of an economy in general, which is why usually we will see that most of the developed economies in the world are graded under A categories. But developing economies are usually under B categories. But by the way, these credit ratings given by the credit rating agencies, they are not totally perfect. They're not divine or they're not unquestionable. Indian government has time and again questioned these ratings as well. Because multiple times you have seen biasness, multiple times you have seen wrong methodology being adopted in order to calculate these particular ratings, which is why several years back we criticized these credit rating agencies as well. But now, since we have understood what is credit rating, what is credit worthiness, and what are these credit rating agencies, let me tell you a few other names as well. See, there are three very famous credit rating agencies in the world. One is your S&P, Standard and Poor. One is your Moody's ratings, Moody's ratings. And then it is your Fitch ratings, Fitch credit ratings as well. These three are very common, very popular credit rating agencies of the world. So I would like to highlight the 2020-2021 economic survey to you. Now, that was during the COVID-19 pandemic time. This economic survey was released. Now, in that economic survey, there was a chapter. It was titled, Does India's sovereign credit ratings reflects its fundamentals? No. That was the title of this particular chapter under the economic survey. So, this chapter also highlighted that it has never been the case where fifth largest economy of the world, and also even China and India, it has never been the case that the second largest and the fifth largest economy in the world have been rated so poorly by these credit rating agencies. So there is definitely an Asian bias amongst these credit rating agencies of rating Indian economy, Chinese economy lower than the Western counterparts. That is what we suggested in the economic survey. And 5 years down the line, here we are. We are celebrating the upgradation of our rating from BBB minus to BBB by Standard & Poor credit rating agency. So there are two fundamental questions now to be asked. First is that what made this change to take place? What is happening good in Indian economy which made this particular change to happen? And second is what would be the impact or implication? Once we answer these two questions, the entire topic would be done. Now, answering the first question, that what made S&P upgrade India's rating? See, the two prominent reasons are one, fiscal discipline, and second, economic growth. We have seen in our country since COVID-19 pandemic, where fiscal deficit of our country, that is difference between the budget expenditure and the budget receipts, the fiscal deficit of our country went as high as 9%. And from that 9.2% in 2020-2021 to coming down to 4.4% in the upcoming year to 2025-2026, India has come a long way to reduce its overall fiscal deficit. And also one more legislation in our country, that is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It also helps in fiscal consolidation, fiscal prudence, and fiscal discipline being established in the country. So which is why, see, if you see this year's fiscal deficit of our country, the budget expenditure of our country is around 50 lakh crores. The receipts of our country is around 35 lakh crores. This 15 lakh crores amount is the fiscal deficit of a country, which over the years we have been trying to reduce as a percentage of our GDP. Now, since we're talking about GDP, there's also known term of debt to GDP ratio, which means how much debt a country has taken, loan a country has taken versus the GDP of the country. Now, debt to GDP ratio of our country is also set to be reduced from 57% to around 50% or 49% by the year 2030. So that is in relation to economic performance and other things as well. For example, Indian economy growing at 6.5% in the last quarter. Now, this might not be really well for the entire world, but for India as a nation, this is really, really great number because India is one of the fastest growing economy. Now, if we compare with our past performance, we are not very happy because we are used to growing more than 7%. But if we compare it to the world, India is one of the world's largest and fastest growing economy. So first point, fiscal discipline, the reduction in the fiscal deficit of our country due to Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Second, a reduction in the debt to GDP ratio. Third, stable and high economic growth of the country. Even the percentage compared to our previous percentage is less, but still in world stage it is good. Alongside that, fourth, stable inflation, stable pricing in the economy. Inflation, that is rise in price of commodities, percentage rise of prices of commodities. It has not been more than 3 to 4% in the last 20 months. And headline inflation is as low as 1.5% as of July of 2025, which simply shows that India has been able to stabilize the price and control inflation in the country. So all these points together cumulatively shows us why Indian economy has been doing well and why S&P has upgraded our rating from BBB minus to BB plus. See, all these factors together, they highlight India's growth, they highlight India's resilience, India's development and credibility in economic management, and also justifying the long-awaited upgrade by the S&P. By the way, if you have to understand the rating given by S&P, the rating is under investment grade. That is, you can invest in this particular country. Now, earlier it was BBB minus, that is the worst grade under the investment grade. But now, since it's BBB, it is actually more stable with the early level of investment grade ratings. So, which is why it should be a good thing for us as well. Also, if we see according to S&P, what does this rating means? According to S&P, the BBB rating reflects an adequate capacity to meet financial commitments, but more vulnerable to adverse social conditions. That is your BBB. And the worst one is BBB minus, after that BBB, and after that it is BBB plus, a positive sign to BBB, which is then followed by A, AA and AAA. Now these AAA countries, they denote the strongest capacity. Now because the credit worthiness of these countries is the highest, they denote the strongest capacity for a country, any country in the world, to repay. Which means to meet the financial obligations, they show the strongest commitment. Now if we compare India with the global peers or with the global countries, this BBB rating of India with other countries can be compared with that of Greece, Mexico and Indonesia. Now this AAA rating is usually given to advanced economies, including some economies like Australia, Canada, Germany, Denmark, etc. So these countries are usually having AAA credit ratings. However, it does not mean that always the wealthiest nation or the most developed nation would have the highest rating. Similar example we could saw in the year 2012 as well, when United States of America's rating was downgraded to AA plus by Standard & Poor. Now, since we have made it very clear that why India has got these ratings, the very next logical question is how it will benefit India, how it will impact India in a positive way. See, this upgrade means immediate boost for the country. See, one, from perspective basis, Indian economy would now be seen in a better way in the eyes of other people, especially internationally. So that is one very good thing. Second is a very notable lowered borrowing cost by the entity, by the country. Now, because of the improvement in credit rating, people would be more trustworthy of that particular country. And if India's credit rating have improved, people would be more trustworthy on India, which is why they would be willing to buy products from India a lot. Now, let's take an example. For example, I've already told you that in the financial year 2025-2026, India's budget expenditure is going to be around 50 lakh crores. However, India's budget receipts, other than borrowings, is going to be around 35 lakh crores, which is very, very visible in clear sheet. Now, this 15 lakh crores is nothing but fiscal deficit. Now, this fiscal deficit needs to be covered by the country in order to ensure that the entire money is spent as the government expenditure, as the budget expenditure. And the question is, from where does this 15 lakh crore rupees would come from? The government would borrow that money. So, which is why it is very essential for almost all the economies in the world to borrow from each other. And when Indian government borrows from some other country, these 15 lakh crores or whatever amount they want to borrow, something internal, something external, whenever they borrow, whenever they negotiate the interest rate, Indian economy would be getting lower and cheaper interest rate than before. Because now they are more credit worthy according to S&P. I hope that is making sense. So which is why Indian government or Indian economy would get help in a reduced borrowing costs as well. Also at this time, at this juncture, where it is very clear that US is imposing around 50% tariff on India's imports, and Indian economy, Indian GDP would be hit by 0.2%. This increase or upgradation of ratings by S&P for India comes as a very great news. Because now, because of this, investors would be more confident in India's economy. And since we have never defaulted in our loans in our entire history of 75 years, we've never ever defaulted on our loans. There's a very clean record, very clean state, a very clean record, very clean slate. It makes us understand simply one thing. Indian economy right now is in good shape. Of course, there's a lot of scope to improve. There's a lot of scope to improve the inequality, to reduce the poverty, to reduce the problem of hunger, malnutrition, all these things, definitely corruption, all these things exist. But if we look at a macro point of view, the way Indian economy is doing right now is nothing short of a miracle, or is nothing short of a great feat. And the point here being that this one step taken by Standard & Poor would help Indian economy again becoming the manufacturing hub, and again coming to the S&P improving the credit rating of our country. It simply means that they are more trusting on India as an economy than other countries, and People are trusting Indian economy more, investors are trusting Indian economy more, lenders are interested in Indian economy more, and they are optimistic about India's growth and India's path and trajectory to achieve the developed economy goal by the year 2047. So I hope this entire story of credit rating agency, what is credit rating, why India has been upgraded, and what are its implications, all these things are crystal clear in your mind. I hope you gained a new perspective from the session. All the very best and have a beautiful day. Thank you.